Hey everybody, Randy here. Obviously, we had some big news this week that we are getting a tour postponement, and we all kind of are feeling the same way about it. But just to let you guys know that this episode was recorded prior to the tour announcement, so there might be some references to the tour. I just don't want anybody to get confused or or bothered by it. We can't get rid of every single thing in the episode, but I just, if you want to hear our statement on the postponement and just kind of what to look forward to next and maybe a little bit of silver linings, we did post kind of a breaking news episode on Monday night, so that's on all of our platforms if you want to go and check that out. I implore you do if you're looking for something to hold on to, but here's the episode for today, and we'll be back next week with another episode as well, which again was recorded right in the middle of this news going on. So, this what was going to be a pretty big week for the band, the fans, and this show is that's going to be on hold for a little while. But we're still going to be here. We're still committed to doing this, and hope you all are going to continue on and enjoy the content. So just trying to keep things positive and enjoy the show.
The following is brought to you with no commercial interruption.
Live on four legs. What's your take on new album stuff? I don't think I've talked to you about this yet.
No one's has. No one's has? Yeah, everybody's got to wait until 2030.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not coming anytime soon. You have to get through all the Lost Dog tracks, all the Riot Act tracks. That's a lot to get through before you get to Super Blood Wolf Moon.
Oh, yeah. Well, I figure it's kind of good that way, too, because if you talk about something that has just come out, pretty much all you're going to have is just your first impressions on it and stuff. You're not going to have, a context of a tour and stuff, and who knows what kind of stuff might come out about the making of this record and stuff like that later. So it's kind of good that I have some time for maybe a mythology or something like that to build up over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, with 10, there's tons of stuff that you can talk about with, even the most, song that nobody cares about or something like that, just because the album has been out for so long and people have talked about it for so long and all that sort of stuff that, if I were talking about the new stuff right now, it's kind of it's this, it came out this day.
You're rushing to get an idea out. I think John and I got a couple of Patreon episodes in where we specifically talked about Dance of Clairvoyance and Super Blood Wolf Moon, and there were instant reactions, and I think I feel a lot different about Dance than I did. Super Blood, I've stayed away from because I didn't really like it at first. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? Here's the thing. My wife was in the hospital for a couple of days, and the day that she went and had surgery was the day that Super Blood Wolf Moon came out. So I was sitting in the waiting room for 4 hours listening to that song over and over and over and over and over again, trying to think, okay,
what do I really feel about this song?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to force myself to have an opinion on it. And I couldn't. I wanted to like it so much more than I did. And it upset me that I didn't like it or just wasn't feeling it like I feel other songs. And now it's been about, 3 weeks since they released the song? Mm-hmm. I haven't listened to it maybe in 2 weeks, and I'm not going to listen to it until the tour starts and I'm really following everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So hopefully, it sounds like it'll be a good live song, so hopefully my opinion will change on that. But, I'm looking more forward to right now, the Quick Escapes and the Whoever Saids of the world. What's everything else like? What's the deep cuts? What's the Matt Cameron written track on the album going to sound like?
Yeah,
there's going to be so much stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just always holding out for are there going to be some sort of B-sides, or there going to be stuff that
you would think after 3 years and a song that was supposed to be the title track of this album 2
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago. Didn't even make the album, so...
Or are they saving everything for the theoretical fan club singles?
Stray Cats.
Yeah.
Instead of Lost Dogs, Stray Cats. I feel like they can add all of those avocado demos, the Let It Rides, and...
2x4, Cold Confession.
Cold Confession, that was the one I was thinking of,
Yeah.
There's a lot of material, and even if you want to go back and take the stuff that wasn't on Lost Dogs, like Angel and Olympic Platinum and that sort of stuff, I guess you could.
Yeah.
Creedy Stomp. Really, even though that was released on the Redux.
Well, they've released, Yellow Ledbetter and Last Kiss, how many times on different compilations.
Well,
and stuff.
sure, because that's going to sell records.
Yeah.
Both those songs, it's top
But
10
nobody's really
most popular
champing at the
Pearl
bit
Jams.
for those.
Olympic Platinum? No.
Yeah.
I would love Happy When I'm Crying on something important.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of cool. I don't really have much of an opinion on Olympic Platinum. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time I listened to it. So
Yeah, no, it's just the falsetto sort of.
see,
thing,
it's not even buzzing in my head. Like, oh yeah, that's what that song sounds like. It's so weird and irrelevant to me. But hey, that's the era we're covering today. So let's get to it.
And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Gentlemen. Mama Queen. Matt fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody, now welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, and whether this is the first time, the last time, or the 100th time, welcome to the show. What we do on every show is we take a Pearl Jam live show from their history and we break it down into pieces. We talk about the time period, the era, what was going on with the band, some of the cool things about the songs that happened, and just kind of enjoy some old bootlegs. And today we are continuing our Around the World series. It's going to be the first European show that we do. Hungary, Budapest, 1996, and they have not been back there since, until flash forward a couple months, and they will be back in the summer. Randy Sobel here, and over there we have a special guest. It is not John Farrar. It is not Chris Buckley. Oh! What's that I hear? Coming down the aisle, weighing at approximately, unsure of weight, but a 2XL t-shirt. He is from somewhere in the desert of Las Vegas, Nevada. He has been to near, I don't know how many Pearl Jam shows, and he has his own Pearl Jam podcast called The Better Band Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with the golden voice, Brandon
How's
Palomo!
it going, everyone? We're going all around the world today, so I thought I'd bring that with me here. And okay, now I think we can get started here.
Yeah, let's do it. We had to find a replacement this week. John was ill, but John's okay, everybody. Don't worry. I was trying to look for a replacement, so I went to, my first option. and the first option said, sorry, I got something to do. Then I went to the second option, and they didn't even respond. I went to the third, and I didn't even realize I had a third option. Then I went to look at this photograph, the Nickelback official podcast, and they said, what's a Pearl Jam? So then I ended up with Brandon. So there we go. That's where we are today.
Yeah, but, batting cleanup. Yeah, that's what it is, right?
If you say so. I call it like, the
leave-ins.
Well, like it's the 12th inning, and we've used our whole entire bench, and now, we need somebody to fill in for the pitcher.
Hot dog filler. Yeah, that's me.
What a sports ball concept that is. It's been a little bit since you've been on the show. You were on our fantasy set list draft episode, and you're going to be making an appearance next week for a special episode that we'll get into talking about in a little while. But what's been going on since then?
Well, we're just on pins and needles waiting for the new record, and I am trying to get episodes of my podcast recorded and just trying to talk to people about Pearl Jam. So,
and you're basically done with Vitology right now? Almost done with Vitology?
Not necessarily. I'm going to only be able to go to every other week for a little bit, just because I'm running out of Vitology episodes. There are still some songs that I'm looking for guests for. So if listeners...
Anybody out there
want to get in on this and talk with me after hearing this, and hopefully I make a good impression. And but
you always make some sort of impression. I think you already made. The entrance was, if that's not an impression, I don't know what is. But you were kind of out of order this time. I noticed you had like Tremor Christ in what? The number 7 song or something.
Oh, no,
like that.
I haven't even recorded that yet.
Oh.
So it's not that you... Whoops. If you heard it, somehow you've traveled back in time.
All right. Well, sorry I ruined that concept. Hopefully no code sticks to the track listing there, but that should be... We're recording an episode for your no code show shortly after this, so hopefully that'll be out whenever you're ready for no code.
Oh yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get to them, at least start putting those out by the end of April. I'm hoping.
You got all those episodes available, and I will be anticipating all of those as they come. But today we got a lot to talk about with our episode on the Leggy Show, and you're kind of like a guest leg, I suppose. So
pseudopod.
As pseudopod, if you're a fan of the show and you just want more content, patreon.com/live-on-4legs. We have to thank a bunch of people that have joined up in the last week or two, and here they are. Their names are Dukes Wooters, Dave Jantausch, who's obviously part of Live Footsteps and will be on the show next week. He was nice enough to contribute to us, even though he does so much for us already that we can't thank him enough. But he thankfully he's in on this, and he wanted to contribute a little bit to the show. And we're definitely we'll share some things that we're going to be doing with. In collaboration with Live Footsteps next week. And we have Clay Davis, who signed up. Jared Jackson and Jacob Chamberlain are all new patrons. So thank you, everybody. And if you want to be a patron, head on over to patreon.com/live-on-4legs. We have tons of exclusive episodes that are up and more to come in the future. We have 2 tiers. The $1 tier gets you everything exclusive episode and gets one episode that you can request to have us cover at any time. We have lots of stuff on the horizon, so it might get pushed back a little bit. So, that's why there are tiers. But if you want something instantly or move up in the queue, there is the Gigaleg tier, which is the $5 tier. So if you want to become a Gigaleg, Gigaton patron, that's the leg for you. And you get first dibs at our things like set list drafts and fantasy drafts and things like that. So it's just, everybody's going to get the exclusive content. Everybody's going to get a chance to do everything. But with so many people that are signed up now, we have 38 patrons that are a part of this, which is freaking awesome. We thank everybody that is a patron and who has been a part of this. I just want to thank everybody real quick that came in and donated and picked up one of our shirts in the merch sale. We kind of at the last minute, unfortunately, something happened where it was a natural disaster caused major damage in Nashville, and we were all set to donate our funds to the Australian wildfire relief, and with everything that was going on, we felt terrible because we know that a lot of fans are really concerned. We decided to split the fundraising cost between the two funds. So we will be, for the funds that we've raised, we will be sending to Nashville, and we will be sending to Australian relief funds. So we thank everybody for contributing with that. We have 65 people who got on board. It's an unbelievable number that I would have never expected in my life. If you rock one of our shirts or hoods on tour, and we see you at any of the parties that we're doing, we will we'll take pictures and we'll have a good time, and hopefully we'll have some extra kind of stuff. We'll have stickers and little thank you gifts for you guys when we see you at the show, and maybe we'll send you a bootleg as well. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of all of our hearts. That was something that really means a lot to us, and just getting represented and seeing people wearing our shirts on tour is going to be very surreal. So very, very excited for all this stuff to go down. Let's get into the show. Budapest 1996. So 96, and you're starting to do your no code episodes now. It's an interesting time because it's such a transitional period within the band's history, and we haven't touched up on this year a lot. We did the Barcelona show last year, but after the Barcelona show, we wanted to do more 2003 and 1995, and we haven't gone back to 96 at all because it just, I don't want to say it's like a depressing time in Pearl Jam lore, but it's not the most sexiest time because they were kind of on the downswing of coming off of a year where they were at the absolute peak of their popularity. Now they're not doing Ticketmaster venues where things are accessible, and they have an album that really, to a lot of fans that were all in on the first three, isn't accessible. So what's the time period for you? What when you think of 96 and no code, like how do you think of Pearl Jam?
It's sort of a inoculation period, I think, for them. They just got so big up through Vitology that they were kind of feeling their oats a little bit. It's like, hey, everybody loves us. Let's take on the world. Let's take on Ticketmaster, and sort of had to take a step back after that and lick their wounds a little bit, through the no code period, and just sort of, they weren't as out there and as visible as they once were. So, and
that was in their own hands. That was, they controlled all of that.
Yeah, it's sort of like I don't know, maybe not making a mistake, but sort of a little trip up and sort of growing up in the life cycle of the band. Just sort of awkward adolescence here at this point, and it's easy to have lost track of them at this point too, because like I said, they weren't as visible, and also with the album isn't as huge and as out there and in your face as the previous three.
And we don't like the G word on this show very much, but the grunge era is, if not officially dead in 96, it is on life support at this point. Kurt's gone. Obviously Pearl Jam coming out with no code, which is completely different than anything else they've done at this point. It doesn't help the cause. Alice in Chains is in a really weird spot. Soundgarden is about to break up in a year or two. It's not in a good spot, and the music that's coming out that's starting to get popular and fill the Billboard charts, I think 96 was when like the Spice Girls started, and rock and roll, like Smashing Pumpkins and Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, a fantastic album, came out in 96. but you got stuff like Sublime that was popular, and like that weirdly changed the game in a lot of strange ways. It kind of it blended the hip hop and rock areas there, and people were unsure of it, and then kind of, it turned from rock and roll fans, then became hip hop fans, and then a lot of, then right after that you get the Limp Bizkits and the Korns of the world, and there's a lot of, it's dead. That kind of music is gone. It's not popular anymore. So, it's interesting that Ed is very appreciative of everybody during the show. He said it a couple of times, and I wonder if he's feeling that, I guess, a little remorse that they're not necessarily as popular as they were. This is about 2 months since the album came out, so, I wonder if he's just sort of seeing that people aren't interested in moving away from it, and he's a little disappointed by that, but also thankful for all the people that did stick around.
Yeah, it's probably hard to go from, not necessarily because of money or anything like that, but maybe like a little hit of your ego, where it's kind of like, oh, we used to sell out, huge theaters and, amphitheaters, whatever. And then we got to play these weird-ish sort of venues that people aren't sure about how to get tickets for. And, I'm pretty sure they sold everything out, especially in Europe, where they're not able to go all the time. And people are hungry for them, so they'll, of course, go. But it's sort of like,
Was that a pun?
Damn it, no. I had a pun ready to go, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I'm going hungry. Yeah, I did tweet that this week. My bad.
Yeah, that's all right. As long as you're doing it too, then I know that I'm not going to get summarily chastised for my own puns.
I think the one emphasis that I think is really important to sort of show is that the differences between Vitalogy and No Code is Vitalogy is somebody that needs to be in therapy, and No Code is somebody that's been through therapy. Mm-hmm. If that's, the best way to kind of define it. It's sort of a recognition of oneself, and sort of still figuring it out, and still realizing that growth is an option, that you don't need to be angry all the time. So let's kick off the show. One thing I do want to mention: before the show, we get a sound check of a song that has been written but not recorded yet, and that song is MFC. Mm-hmm. And we don't have a sound check of it, but we do know that Ed wrote it in Italy, and they were in Milan on the 13th, and this show was on the 17th, so this was like right after. So Ed is obsessed with this song, and there's a show that he did solo in Rome in December, a couple weeks after this, and he says to the crowd, "This is my favorite song that I've written so far." And so he's like there again, kind of with the way that Vitalogy and Versus went, where Vitalogy songs bled into the Versus era. This is sort of the way that Yield gets blended into the No Code era, is that MFC gets written while on this tour. So I think that's a cool facet of that. We start off the set list with something that always pretty much gets kicked off in the No Code era, and it's very, I don't want to call it chalky because the album obviously opens with it, but it's the obvious opener, and it's Sometimes. And the differences there between how Sometimes is played now and Sometimes is played then, the very, very much the song tiptoes in and gets to a slow kind of build and then builds up, and how in the song there's that like wave crashing sound effect in the middle. Mm-hmm. They do use something like that in this, which I find to be very interesting.
Yeah, it has and the build up too at the end sort of forgets like, oh yeah, you can kind of open these songs up a little bit more live than when you're trying to set it in stone, I guess, on a record too, where you have a little bit more life infused into it.
Yeah, what I recognize, because we're doing sometimes for your show and doing my research for the song, I sort of forgot that it ended with such a, just, I don't want to call it bland, but such a light finish. It was very delicate going into Hail Hail, and live, especially nowadays when they perform sometimes live, you can get a really strong finish on it. You can get a really high-pitched chorus at the end where he's doing this, sometimes I do this and sometimes I do that. And on the album, it's just, they didn't really progress to get harder at all. It just got kind of softer and faded out. So yeah, that is a very fair point. But that ending transition gets us into a nice little section here, which is a very common section for the time. A corduroy into Hail Hail, into Animal, into Dissident. I love this corduroy. Ed's figuring out at this point how to use his voice where he's not going to blow it out for the entire show and blow it out for the rest of his life. And the way he's utilizing his voice in some of these songs is very interesting, because it does feel like he's stretching the way he did in the Vitalogy era, but he's not straining.
Yeah, they at this early point in the set, it sounds, I don't know if it's just because they started off slow, but they sound a little tired or just lacking some energy. And I
do get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And hearing the bootleg and stuff like that, he doesn't mention being sick or anything like that. But I think it's just sort of, this is the 14th of 19 European dates that they did. What they've done,
it's
they'll end up.
Budapest, so it's kind of it's a weird place. Like, is Budapest. I don't know too much about Budapest or Hungary, so I just know they haven't been back there since.
Yeah.
So are they thinking, this is just another European country, and while going through Europe and traveling through Europe is incredible, are they thinking to themselves, man, it's been like 2 months of this.
Yeah.
We are pretty tired, and it is just kind of another show. I have no idea.
Yeah, and then before this, when they started the tour, it looks like they did 14 tour dates in the United States before they left.
Your Randall's Island and the Toronto show, and there was a Maryland show somewhere in there that I think one of our listeners has mentioned at some point. I get where you're coming from, that the energy is different. It's not necessarily lacking. It's just, I think it's just maybe Jack's influence and how he's a little bit more subtle than Dave A.
Yeah.
Could that be it?
Yeah, I think so. And then Ed does sound really sort of raspy, like he's been pushing his voice in Hail Hail and Dissident, where it's kind of like, you don't really sing like that on those songs on the record or something like that. I don't know if it's just trying something new, or like I said, just getting tired, getting his voice tired or something like that. But then I think somewhere around after Animal, I think their energy does start to pick up a little bit. I think they just needed to shake off the dust sometimes.
I feel that. I think this was a really strong show for both Jack and Mike, especially this era. I mean, it's easy to say a good show for Mike is a good show for Mike, but the solo on Corduroy was fantastic. I really loved what they were doing with that. And then one of the things I just noticed on Dissident was that Jack had such a different vibe to it, that it grooved so much different. Like, Dissident was very just cymbal heavy with Dave, and I guess like straight up, kept like a straight up rock and roll pace, but like he brought just a different vibe to the Dissident that when listening to it, I'm like, this doesn't sound like it sounded like it was on the recording.
What to say, so she was down, so she was low, and I caught her pass, I'm holding on, she had to turn
John says it all the time. Jack, does the little things, the way he times things up and the way that he hits is just so unique. And I don't know, Dissident is one of those songs that to me, versions don't necessarily stand out amongst others, but this one really popped in my ears.
Yeah, especially when you have some of these more standard songs that you'll get all the time and stuff. Hearing Jack play on them is sort of like a little treat, sort of like oh wow, cool.
Right, yeah.
A little taste of something different than, what you've had with Matt Cameron throughout this whole time. And then, you have the couple of real standout bootlegs from the Dave A period. And, Jack kind of doesn't have too much, at least right there in your face, that's being pushed out as far as Pearl Jam bootlegs.
We get into a song that really is a Jack song here. When you think of Jack era songs, Who You Are is really a defining song in, if you want to say, the personality of No Code being that sort of zen, that idea of, recognizing oneself and coming to terms with it. Who You Are is that song, and it's the number one single. So that's anybody that puts out a number one single knows that that's defining what you want people to think of your album.
It's I don't know about setting the table for what the whole album is going to be, but at least it's a sort of, hey, this is a hint. This isn't the same thing that we have been doing this whole time. It's a little bit different. We're going to kind of explore a little bit. And so, this is a portent of things to come. But it's really good to hear Who You Are and Jack play it too after, since after this tour, they pretty much abandon it until they pick up a little bit in 2008 and bring it out every once in a while. But it's nice to hear sort of, oh yeah, I remember this song. Yeah, this is a nice little bit of nostalgia, I guess.
Right, yeah. I feel like Matt Cameron doesn't necessarily do it the justice that Jack did, because obviously, part of his writing and part of his participation with the song is what makes the song what it is. It's really his kind of personality, and the bridge in this version, just powerful and energetic. Is supposed to fill the atmosphere, and it just does a wonderful job doing it here, and it's a treat to hear it when it's kind of at its peak.
And then there's a debut, right?
We got a debut here. Ed says that this one you might not have heard before, but there are people traveling to every show, and we want to give them something special. And again, that goes to what I was saying before, that Ed's really appreciative of everybody's support of the band at this time, because there might be a lack of enthusiasm about the new album. So the people that do stick around, he's cherishing very much, and that's where we get the debut of Black, Red, Yellow.
Exponentially serving, perpetually unnerving. The adjectives, they are all occurring. Freud walking the sidelines, clipboard, scoring the brain. Black magically take trace, makes me sing. Come on, smiling, like a 50-foot woman, yeah. Please don't make me explain. Phantom pain in my brain, it's all that's left of my lane. Black and red, yellow, black and red, yellow. Murder of peace. What you heard, what you heard.
This is the first out of 7 performances which is insane. And for a place like Budapest, hint, hint, if you're going to Budapest this year, maybe they pull it back in because a little tie-in to their history. You know, they like to do that sometimes. So they tagged it in Augusta, Maine earlier 1996, the only time they played in Maine, and I only know that because my sister-in-law lives in Maine, and I had to tell her that no, Pearl Jam does not go to Maine. They go to Boston, but she was wondering if they had ever played there, and that was the one. But it seems like they kind of got to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
There's some stretches of difficulty here, and you hear like the chords in the beginning, they're sort of playing around with it, and there's a really good jammy bridge before the last chorus there, which I think is longer than the Lost Dogs recorded track, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I prefer the Hail Hail single version to the Lost Dogs.
Right.
Just because that's the version that I've heard the most, because that single came out. It's like, oh, I gotta get it. I gotta hear it. It's a new song.
Of course.
One new song. I gotta pay $12 for this import CD or however much it was.
So was that out at this time? Obviously, if people get the Hail Hails, I would think that they would have released their second single by November, right?
Yeah, they should have. Online people have been saying that all 3 of their singles from No Code had come out in the year 2000, or not 2000, 96.
2096.
Yeah. But, and especially since this was, I think, only released on CD, and it was only released in Europe, I believe, in Japan, that they probably did hear it, but they don't. The audience doesn't really seem to know what's going on or seem that into it,
right?
When they play it.
This is obviously before the advent of Napster and music downloading, and I'm sure early bootleggers in 96 are probably seeking this one out. And overall, like, Ed's very strong, back and forth, heavy vocals on this. Good performance for the first time ever. And essentially never going to really do it that much. I think they did it, 2 more times that year, and then very sparingly throughout the rest of their career. Yeah. So, we've covered it once. This is number 2, and now we have five more opportunities to talk about it. So we'll see if they ever pop up again.
Gotta collect them all.
Well, it's funny. I mentioned that bridge that they were doing before the last chorus, and it felt very much like a rearview mirror type bridge where they just kind of kept going and doing a little bit of experimenting here. And this rearview mirror that follows up on Black, Red, Yellow doesn't have a bridge at all. It's like they abandoned that concept for this version. Like right after they do the last verse, they go pretty much into the bass line and finish the song, which I don't think I've really heard on this before.
Yeah, and that isn't longer than 7 minutes or something like that too.
Exactly right. No experimenting. It's just very straight up. It's probably, I didn't really see how many minutes it was. I don't have it up at the moment, but it's maybe sub 4.
Yeah, it's probably I think around 5 minutes or so.
Yeah,
it goes on a little bit. I think more at the end, but the bridge in the middle is just pretty much straightforward.
Yeah, Ed's vocals very good on this. Again, you said it before. He kind of he peaked at some points in the show, and I feel like he's really full throttle and getting insane at the last measures of the song. And there's really pretty much no bad rearview mirrors ever. So that's kind of coming on this show and saying that there's a bad rearview mirror. You're gone. You're done. You're toast. I don't think anybody has, and I know that you won't. So, well, maybe you won't. You haven't yet. There's still time.
Yeah, we'll see.
So after the song, Ed is kind of heard in the background, and there is a written set list of this, and you can kind of see in between Rearview Mirror and Habit, there's a little fill-in where it says Better Man in very, very small writing, but you can hear Ed audibly say Better Man or Small Town, and it seems like neither were on the set list. So kind of cool. It's an on-the-fly change, and I don't think they're known for really doing this at the time.
Yeah, it's calling an audible. You gotta sometimes see just kind of the energy of the audience.
Flow,
and, yeah, and I think after coming out from Black, Red, and Yellow and seeing that was kind of like a misstep, it's kind of like, okay, I think we got to kind of get him back and give him
a sing-along.
Yeah,
right. Because Rearview Mirror is good for that, but you need to Habit's not that. Habit's a circle pit kind of song. So give them a song that's a palate cleanser to go into Habit and to start, a section. Well, not even a section, just a song, because Off He Goes after Habit is really going back to that. So it's more balancing back and forth, I suppose. So they decide to do a poppy version of Better Man instead of Small Town here, which I think was probably the better choice for this time period.
Yeah.
Jack has a little bit more influence in the beginning of the song, kind of a little bit like the early versions, the Atlanta 94 version, the Slims version, where you kind of get that a little bit of a beat behind what Eddie is doing, but it's very subtle. It sounds, for Better Man, it sounds different compared to what you get, onward and forward.
Yeah, especially towards the end where they kind of don't meander and sort of like, okay, what is the tag going to be this time?
No tags, right.
What are we going to do? It's just sort of pretty straightforward and just sort of, okay, lean and mean.
But also for the ninth song in, I wouldn't want them to linger. I would kind of want, because you expect Better Man, it's a pop song, it's a 3 to 4 minute song. You get that, and at the end you're done singing anyway, because they kind of linger a little bit. You don't want this middle of the set part to have just some random, back and forth call and response. That's sort of a later in the set type thing. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and they're pretty much halfway through the first set too. So you're kind of like, okay, now this is the spot where hopefully you've established yourself in the concert and the running order and everything like that, and this is where we're starting the approach to stick the landing for the end of the first set. So
sure.
We've reached cruising altitude, and now we gotta point into the direction that we're going.
Exactly, and that kind of that gets us in Habit, and the section is Habit, Off He Goes, Even Flow. Habit, you get a little speaking as a normal human being determined just to see the year 2000 instead of a child of the 90s or child of the 70s.
Yeah, which is it's closer to the printed lyrics for it that are out there than what appears on the record, and than being whatever else he's gonna improv fit in there from time to time, whatever he decides to say.
Yeah, just a strong effort in Habit. Ending.
Yeah, Jack really gets into it too at the end too.
Speaking as just a normal human being determined to see the year 2000. Never thought you'd have it. Never thought you'd have it. Never thought you'd have it. I never thought you'd never. Never thought you'd have it. Never thought you'd have it. I never thought you'd have it. I never thought you'd never.
and it's sort of weird because you change a little bit of a direction with Better Man, and if you know that, here's the one thing I would have changed is I probably would have pushed Off He Goes down to after Daughter or before Daughter, because don't you want the momentum to swing upwards and even, and I get Off He Goes into even flow can do that, but Habit into even flow gets you like even more energy.
Yeah.
You know, I would have rather had that, especially because we had Better Man just kind of added in between the two. You know, they're still, you know, young in their just kind of changing set list off the fly ideas here. So I'm sure that they aren't thinking in the middle of a set like, well, this goes here and now this goes here and now this no, they're thinking, okay, let's make this change and keep playing so we can get all of our songs in that we have to.
Yeah.
You know, so it's probably not on the forefront of their minds, but it's, you know, it does set a good balance, but I just, this, oh boy, this even flow is just, it's a machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a long solo. It's not there for a long time. It's there for a damn good time. It is soul crushing. That's what I said before about McCready just having one of those shows where he's just absolutely on fire. This is one. This was special. This was great.
It's another instance, I think, too, of the little jack flourishes that you get in there that you kind of forget about.
Sure.
That he had in there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, we're so used to even flows with Matt and how it's just at very, very much that Lamborghini pace where you're going, you know, 120 on the expressway and you're flying by. This one is sort of a local town cruise where you're going 80 in a local zone and nobody's bothering you about it, but you're still enjoying your time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ed says here, for the Army guys out there, you'll get the joke. Glorified G, and this was the one that I kind of teased before, where this is the last appearance of this song until April 2003. So after this version, 188 shows would go by where they wouldn't touch the song, and you can kind of tell in the version it's dying out a little bit. It's their enthusiasm, and I think there's a show in San Diego in '95 where Ed says glorified version of "I hate this song." So why even do it after that? They only played it 3 times on this tour. I get it that they don't really like it, but why didn't they just get rid of it earlier? I'm going to guess that this is a song that either Mike or Stone likes, because, you know, Mike has a cool little riff in there, and Stone gets to sing some backup, but it doesn't seem to be cool about this song.
Yeah, well, they're at the part now in their catalog where it's like, okay, we have 4 albums worth of stuff, and we also have a pretty good collection of B-sides and covers and stuff like that. So
that some of
we
them
can
they
be
like
a
more
little
than the
bit
album
more
stuff.
Selective than we did in 10 in Vitology or 10 in Versus times, where, you know, we got to play all the songs we know because, you know, that's all we have. Where this, they can kind of be like, okay, this song doesn't really work that good live. This was an album track, so we can just kind of let it fester and collect dust or whatever, and we'll bust it out for special occasions when people will be like, oh, wow, they haven't played in so long. Is it that good of a song? Well, not really, but it's cool to hear it because we haven't heard it in so long.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you that.
If you love Leash performances in 2020, then you're just nostalgic because he's singing Lucky Face. Come on. It's not the same. It's not your father's Leash. It's meant for, he doesn't want to curse throughout the whole entire song because he knows there's children in the crowd. It's very PG of a song that was very much the opposite in its heyday. So it's one of their lesser important songs, Glorified G. It has a good message, but grand scheme of things, you're not thinking Glorified G. Oh man, that really cemented the band's legacy at all. No, it is what it is, and it's on an album where there's at least 9 or 10 songs that are better than it. So after the G song, Daughter comes up, and as usual, it's all about the tag and the jam on the tag. It gets completely quiet sort of after they finish the chorus, the final chorus of the song. This is a special, like an especially good Daughter tag. It has excellent call and response that doesn't feel force-fed at all. It's organic, and Ed gets progressively more passionate and more angrier as it goes and starts screaming, and it just feels like he's feeding off of everybody else's reaction, and everybody else gets louder as Ed gets louder. Finishes up nice and smooth, and the "It's Okay" line to finish from Sonic Youth. This was really good. This might be one of the best things from this show. You get Daughter tag sometimes, and it's so you don't need no education. Yeah, we get it. You know, we won the lottery. Okay, we get it. Like, it's kind of the same thing, and this is just, it feels so much different than the normal sort of canned tag that sort of takes an extra 3 or 4 minutes out of a Pearl Jam show.
Yeah, but the audience has the full buy-in, I think, at that point, where they might have had not the strongest of starts, but I think the audience is kind of like, okay, you know, we're here, we're glad we're here. You know, this is really, they're giving us some real choice stuff.
Jeremy, State of Love and Trust. The set is really flowing very well at this point, kind of going in from, you know, poppy songs to, you know, very a hit, and then, you know, one of their very much their fan favorite songs that was really in a peak at this time. Jack sounding really good on State for these songs, and, you know, following hits with hits, never a bad thing, but there are enough deep cuts to sort of spread the wealth, and State, you know, fill in that gap right there. I felt very much very much in favor of the placement for both of these.
Yeah, the Jeremy, you can hear the crowd, at least in the version that I had. They're like, "Oh yeah, here we go."
Yeah. Oh yeah. At this point, when you get the European crowd very early on, the hits are what they know, because they have different releases out there, and I don't know how accessible the albums are to them, but Jeremy is all over the freaking place, even in 1996, because it's the only music video that really is to their name. So where are people really getting their music at the time? MTV Europe, I suppose.
Yeah.
This is probably the one for the locals and the people that aren't following them around, that just wanted to go see a show that happened to be in Budapest. This is the one that they're getting excited for. So yeah, very, very much so. We follow up with Immortality, and another that's going to probably fall into my top 3 on this show. Early version, arpeggiated early version, that very mild beat behind the arpeggio, and Jack is just really settling into it and just building into something. And it doesn't, you get ominous versions, but this sort of blossoms like a flower in May. How many times am I going to say that Immortality is one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs of all time? But when I hear these versions and you get lost in the ending and how just the drums absolutely bring the house down, and Mike is just putting on a show, working so beautifully in tandem with Jack, it's this was a moment. This was very special to come this close to the end of the set and have this.
Yeah, it's still kind of, I think, early in their playing of Immortality too, where Ed will have that little bit of mess around playing with the beginning of it, where it's kind of like, oh, is this a new song? Or
I don't know an earlier version of the arpeggiated. If you know, liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. Email drop right there. Need to do that more often, you guys. But yeah, I can't think of, maybe they did it a couple times in 95, but as far as I can recall, this is as early as I can and I'm sure I'm going to get a message from Bagel being like, well, Utah 95 was this, and Ed sort of, it wasn't the full orbit, you know what I mean? But yeah, just playing around and doing something different, and of course now it's kind of a standard into the song.
Yeah.
And the way I kind of figured the song out live was I hadn't seen it until my 10th show, and I didn't know what was coming because I only listened to the stuff that I had bootlegs for. So I had never heard a version of Immortality live before the first time I saw it. So when they do the arpeggio, I'm like, yeah, what is this? Is this like, I don't know, is this just an improv or something? And then they do the full dum 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 dum, and like you get that full surprise reaction that first time when you really feel that. That's a damn special moment. I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a real sort of, the hair on the back of your neck sort of stands up when you realize that, when you get that for the first time. It could also be an influence from MFC too, having written it around this time, because of the sort of just picking. You could have just been, playing around a lot with arpeggios and stuff like that. So maybe that's why he starts busting it out around here.
Yeah, that's not a bad point at all. Yeah, because it's very much an Ed kind of figuring it out vibe that he he kind of has these songs where it's, sort of in the can of Rearview Mirror too, where it's just kind of ongoing pacing, arpeggiated balances there, and he loves doing that, and I guess it's his style and it works. You got a point. We end the set with Alive, and what can we say? Alive is a great set ender, and I think in '96 it doesn't sound as good as it once did. This is not like a Jack song that really sticks out as much as other songs. This is a rock and roll arena song. He doesn't necessarily flourish on the major arena songs as much, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that '96, songs like Alive and maybe Porch to an extent sort of get a little bit shafted in the excitement and performance wise.
Yeah, and I think they kind of know, it's like, okay, this is the last song of the set. Let's, we got to figure out what we're going to do for the encore or whatever.
Well, speaking of that, in the encore, do you want to tease people as to one of your picks for your fantasy team? Here you go.
Well, you see,
it wasn't your number 2 pick.
No, it wasn't.
We'll leave that, but it was kind of high.
Yeah, it's just the sort of thinking about Stone playing bass,
giving Ed's voice a rest.
Yeah, and having fun. You're just sort of, hey, this is a song from the new album, and there was quite a lot, at least in the bootleg I heard of people singing along to it. It could have been the person that was actually doing the recording or somebody by him, but it sounded like people were singing along to it.
I know you want your Eddie, but right now you got your me.
Stone's gonna sing a song for you. Enjoy. I taught him everything.
I think Stone just has this energy where, he's he brings all his milkshake, brings all the fans to the yard. It's better than everybody else's, and Ed probably just kind of shakes his tambourine and agrees. He's just into it. Some versions, when they do it nowadays, Stone is just kind of like, oh, we really have to do it. It's sort of like almost an embarrassment that they're doing it. He's just like, just let me be. Let me play Black and songs that I'm known for, better songs that I've written, not about Ovaltine. And this, they get sloppy sometimes. And this ending got a little sloppy, but it's more powerful and energetic than versions that I've heard in recent memory.
Yeah.
Ed actually sings a few bars of Young Man Blues.
Well, a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. I said a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. But nowadays, It's an old man who's got all the money. And a young man ain't got nothing in the world these days. I said, he ain't got nothing. He ain't got sweet nothing. Oh.
It's a really cool sound and jam. I wasn't expecting it because going through and looking at the set list and the paper set list there, you think, okay, it's just kind of a tag, and it's more than I thought that they would do on it. It just has a really cool vibe.
Yeah, it's almost like half the song before they start into Lucan.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't know this Who song too well. I really don't, and it's the first time that we've really talked about it on our show. I should have dug into it a little more, but yeah, I'm into it. I'm in. This sounded really good. It doesn't really. I know they did it as some tags and teases back in this era, but it's not something they do nowadays. So we'll get the full song, I'm sure, at some point. But for now, that little teaser tag there is pretty cool. And not something that you're going to hear too often that we're going to cover. But Luke and I got shit. It's Fast Lucan as opposed to Faster Lucan, I suppose. And great line.
Pretty much all the lyrics, too.
Got to mention that, yep. When he gets it right, you got to give him credit. He was trying at that point. Nowadays, it's just, I found my keys and and that's it. And that's it, and that's done. I got shit. I love the line change. I'm not Eddie and you're looking at me. That's such a great change. And Ed goes third person in songs infrequently, but, Blood, Painted Big, turned that into, does it in Not For You, does it in, there's one other song that I can think of that he does it in. I think it's either on Vitalogy or Versus. Remember?
Yeah, I don't got it.
Yeah, blanket.
They're springing this one on me. I was thinking the same thing. It's like, oh, crap, which one is it?
Yeah, I'm like, Blood, Not For You. And then there's another, is it Whipping? It's
Possibly.
It's not Corduroy. It's one that, he's complaining about something that people don't like him, essentially.
Yeah.
Ed says we're going to play one more that you have to listen to, and then it's a free-for-all until the end, and that's Present Tense, with tons of delay in the beginning and a much slower beginning, a lot closer to the album beats per minute. A version like this would sound really good in any live setting in nowadays, but bootlegs, listening to a slow version of Present Tense, I have a little bit of a tougher time feeling the feeling out process. I'm like, okay, you can spend your you can spend your time. Come on, finish up. Let's get to, and it just it doesn't really pick up until the bridge. But I think if I heard it live, I would have been all in on something like this. But hearing it back on a bootleg, it's the expectations of just getting that thunderous dun dun dun. It doesn't bring that to the table as much in this.
Yeah, and I think they try to, they naturally try to speed it up in the heavier sort of parts, and I think it's kind of like a little more, okay, we can't lose him here. We gotta kind of keep it a little up, even though these are all, the last couple of songs are real sort of kick you in the face songs.
Right. And that kind of goes back to the Jack points, is that this is a Jack song. When you get Matt on the song, you want to be in high gear for when Matt really has to kick in and really kickstart everybody else. So they need to go faster. It's not, they're fitting the song for him instead of him fitting into the song. And that's sort of, I guess, developed over time, became that way. But in here, they know that they have more of the song is a slower edge pace to it. It's a slower groove. And I honestly don't know if I were a fan of the band in 96 and like, you know, your age and older than I am, because you got probably...
Hey now.
You probably have 7 or 8 years on me, and that's, you know, that's generous, I suppose. But I probably wouldn't have liked Present Tense in 96.
Oh, really?
Not as much as I do now, because I know...
Oh, okay.
Because I know the live the live version is what helped me love this song.
Okay.
It's not that I didn't love this song when I heard it on the album. It's just that it's late on the album. You get lost in My Trees and Off He Goes and those sort of songs that are earlier, that have that sort of therapeutic vibe to them. I think this is an example of where a live song can make you appreciate the album song so much more.
Yeah, this is a song that's more prone to the sort of soaring qualities that they get in some of these anthemic sort of songs at this point.
Right. And it on the album, it works to an extent, and I think they really perfected it when it's gotten to stuff like Given a Fly. They figured out how to make that really soar into the atmosphere and feel like you're a part of a scene. And I think it works in Present Tense, but it doesn't reach that plateau just yet. But when you hear it live, you're like, okay, I see where they were trying to go with the song. This is fantastic. So Once, Leaving Here, Porch is how we end it. Once was fine. Great song for Jack. Ed teases up Leaving Here and said, this is one we don't write. And it was recorded in 63, not by The Who, but he invites the Fastbacks on stage to perform it with him. And he can never get the Leaving Here chords right in the beginning. He's always trying to figure them out. And I don't know if that's on purpose, if that's like a little nod to how The Who sound, like the garage demo kind of version of this song sounds, but he's always just fiddling dun 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 dun. Love with the Fastback is a wonderful thing. This is a good version of Leaving Here. I was a big fan.
Yeah, this is right around the time, I think, that I can't remember if the Home Alive CD had come out yet.
Yes.
But this is... Oh, okay. So, yeah, this is, you know, they had to bust it out. They've been playing it, so...
And I only know that, and I think it was early 96, and correct me if I'm wrong on that. You can go out and Google and then antagonize me if you have to on this one. But I believe in 95, they played it in San Jose and mentioned that this is one that is going to be on that Home Alive. And, you know, pretty recent, like if not right after that, and then maybe 6 months. So it could be March, April, something of 96, but it was definitely before this tour had started.
Yeah.
So era
Yeah, looks
wise.
like, yeah, right at the beginning of '96 it came out.
Perfect. Nobody's killing me. I'm correct with my information. Fan freaking tastic. We end the show with Porch, and we get a little bit of a tag from the Beatles. Happiness is a warm gun. Bang bang shoot shoot.
I need a fix 'cause I'm going down. Back on the ground as sunset, I'm going down. I need a fix 'cause I'm going down. Back on my silver, 'cause I'm going down. I'm going down. Don't follow me. Stay where you are. Don't follow me. I'm going now.
No shenanigans to my knowledge of reading reports in this of, Ed trying, like we talked about last week, jumping off a freaking amplifier and pretending like he's dead. He's not doing that stuff in 96 per se. He does it at Randall's Island. He duct tapes himself and then jumps into the crowd. But that is a different beast of a show than Budapest is. But he's very thankful for the crowd and says very many thank yous. And that's how he says goodbye. And that's how this show ends. It's a little under 2 hours, and the encore kind of fits into a half-hour mold, which you think, Present Tense, a long song, Porch can be long, a couple of those other songs, I Got Shit, can be a little lengthy sometimes, but they get, doing the math, 7 songs here in an encore that's just a little over a half hour. That's pretty solid.
So you got Lucan in there, so that kind of shifts the average.
Of course. That's what I love when looking at first sets and seeing that, wow, they played 20 songs in the first set, and 2 of them were Lucan and Setting Forth. They really didn't count. It's really an 18-song set when they do that.
Yeah.
But it looks really good on paper. So let's decide here. You can go first. What are your top 3 moments from this show?
My top 3... I don't know if I have an order to them.
You don't have to.
Okay,
let them come to you, yeah.
Even though it's a little shaky, I think the live debut of Black, Red, Yellow is something for the collectors. Just an oddity, even though it may not have been appreciated, I think, at the concert. And even though if you were there, it probably wouldn't have been as like, cool, it's a song we've never heard of.
But in retrospect,
it's also
the serious collector thing, in retrospect,
nailing
is
it.
Important.
Yeah, so there's that. There's like I said, the ending of Habit for me too is a real sort of, the wheels coming off of the truck. I don't know what wheels come off of, but just the way that Jack really sort of is hammering it home, and you sort of...
I'd say the bus on this one.
Wheels off the bus? Go round and round?
Go round and round, yeah.
All over town as the wheels are flying off,
hey,
right?
Your nursery rhymes, man.
I got a 5-year-old, so...
That's right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Let's see, and I'd have to say... I'm looking at the set list. I think that... a nice, tight rear view mirror, I think, is a kind of a nice change of pace, I think, hearing it like that, and is sort of surprising, especially given the historical context to where we are now, where, you have rear view mirror being epic, and this is like a real sort of to the point. It's good to kind of have those long sort of jams and kind of like, oh yeah, let's get spacey, let's do it, man.
But then again, you get something that is different than that, and it perks your ear because you're just like, that's my point. Going back with Daughter, that you get a generic, another brick in the wall WMA It's Okay tag that they always do, and you get something a little different. You're like, oh, I was expecting the long bridge instead of just very tight and then going into a really strong final chorus.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from. Was I stealing your words from your mouth there?
No, you were helping me out there.
Okay. All right.
And there was a parallel thought. I think it's the
Excellent.
in the spirit of the conversation.
So I'll start out, since I pretty much explained it, I'll start out with one of my top 3 moments being the daughter tag. Again, self-explanatory there, because different, not what I was expecting, not what you expect in a recent version of Daughter, which you have to think sometimes is part of the game here, but the passion coming out of Eddie's voice and everybody really, really feeling one of their hits at the time. Just fantastic version. And I sort of bury the actual song on this, but very good version of Daughter in itself. Who You Are, I thought was a really good standout on this show.
Yeah.
Because Jack and the groove with it, and you get more energy from a song like this that doesn't feel like it should have energy, so it definitely stands out as opposed to versions that you would get seldom in this time. And then Immortality is probably my number 1 on this. I love the arpeggiated intro. I love the finish, and I love the vibe, and the last song before a set ender to kind of, get you pumped and excited. That build at the end to get you into a live is just a perfect way to construct the set. So very, I think we had 6 choices overall that were very good and standouts of the show. And now we get to rate. So what's out of 10? Where would you put this?
Like I said, the kind of energy was a little lacking there in the beginning. You have some good, rarer sort of stuff, even though for the most part, there's a lot of, you can look at like stats and stuff on that, and they played like a lot of these songs, throughout the tour or on the other shows and stuff like that. I would say probably a 7. It's pretty good, but it's not a real sort of classic sort of show, I think.
Yeah, when it comes to the overall Pearl Jam lore and category, like they're not going to release this as a vault anytime soon.
Yeah.
If they're going to release a vault, it sure as hell should be Berlin from this era. But like, I think this is somewhat of a gem in this time, that if somebody is looking for something to listen to on YouTube that is a little bit different, a little bit unique, and from an era that kind of goes untalked about and untouched a little bit in 1996, I liked it. I really did. I really enjoyed I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed some of the energy in it. It's a different crowd, and there's not a lot of conversation going on between Ed and the crowd. It's just going straight through and playing, and you have your jammy moments, you have your passionate moments. I think for a 96 show, this is really superb. I'm gonna go and give it an 8.5. Because I think the things that I really liked in the show are things that I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember this version of Daughter, this version of Immortality, this version of Who You Are. Like, though, when I think, and no, this is not a show that's ridiculously high on my list to recommend to people. It's top middle, maybe, and maybe one to be like, oh, if you've never listened to something from 96, definitely. But I think this was better than the Barcelona show from 96, which gets a lot of attention, mainly just because of the sound check. But that was the last one we did in February or January of last year, and I remember the comparison that we made for that show was, it's kind of like your third best pizza place in town, where it's decent. It's not bad pizza at all, but And it's a good alternative, and it's really based off of if you're around that location, sure, I'll go to that spot, and I won't mind it at all. But is it your number one choice? Not necessarily. I think that this show was better than the Barcelona show. If that's a hot take, then call me out on it. It's cool. I'll take all criticisms, but is it going to be better than Berlin? Hell no. Berlin is legendary in very many reasons. That's a show that just about everybody knows. But an 8.5, it's up there. It's up there. I enjoyed myself listening to it, and I enjoyed the show listening to it. Hey, another Around the World episode in the books. And Wednesday is going to be Hartford 2008. We're going to have I said it again. Jave Dantausch. I'm just going to call him Jave from now on. God damn it. From Foot Live Steps is going to be on our show. Definitely, if you've never looked at Live Footsteps, livefootsteps.org is definitely the place to go, and we're doing a lot of collaborations with them that we'll talk about in next week's Hartford 2008 show. If you're enjoying the show, if you're enjoying what we're doing, head on over to Patreon or just keep listening to the episodes on our regular platforms. We love everybody that does, and we love the contributors. We love the social media presence everybody gives us. It's very much appreciative, and we implore you to be one of Brandon's followers on social media. Please follow the Better Band Podcast at Better Band Pod or Listen Up Reno or something.com on Twitter, Insta, Facebook. You just look it up. You just do the stuffs. Just do the stuffs.
Yeah.
Just do the stuffs.
Please.
Do you want to give an official plug for something, or?
Oh no, I was just kidding. Just the Better Band Pod. You can look for that on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and it'll bring you there. And like I said, I'm still looking for guests to finish out Vitology and also No Code, so I can hopefully get back to releasing episodes every week instead of every other week.
All right, but that is it. I thank you so much for doing this on kind of short notice, and I know, not everybody's like me and doesn't have a life and can listen to bootlegs on short notice. But really appreciate you having you on. You always bring a different aspect in from the band and different ideas. So and again, you're coming up on No Code pretty soon, so this was a good little refresher for you to kind of get you excited for covering the album.
No, yeah, and listening to these bootlegs sort of whets the appetite for new stuff. So this is good conditioning for everybody to get ready for a year of Pearl Jam.
Let's close out for today and say goodbye. So this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. Thank you, Brandon, once again for coming on the show. And I'm sure if you're on Patreon, we're going to have stuff that was left off the cutting room floor, because Brandon and I can sometimes get on some tangents, and there's definitely going to be some juicy content that you can listen to probably on Thursday or Friday, whenever we can get around to putting out a Devo episode or live on More Legs. So again, Brandon, thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing this at such short notice, and listen to the Better Band Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Smell you later.
Smell you later.